While Little Bear and his friends were on their way to the post office, they spotted a mail truck parked in the parking lot. "We found a parking lot, and there's a mail truck," Owl said, as he and Duck both flew down to Little Bear. "We found a mail truck, and you could follow it," Owl said. "We could follow it. I sure hope it leads to Emily's house," No Feet replied. Just then, a mailman got inside his truck and began to drive off, so Little Bear and his friends had to keep up with the truck. The truck has been stopping at houses to deliver mail, but no luck on finding Emily yet. Then they came across a large yellow house with a green roof. "This must be Emily's house. I've seen it somewhere," Little Bear wondered, as the mailman shoved mail into the tiny mailbox and then headed off. The fence was stone wall, and it was separating the houses apart. "It looks like we found it," Duck added. "But where's Emily?" Hen asked. Just then, a young woman in her early 20s stepped out to check the mail. Little Bear realized that it was Emily, and his friends saw that too. "Emily?" Little Bear asked, grabbing the woman's attention. "Is that you?" "Who are you?" Emily asked, confused. "Are you Little Bear?" "Yes, it's me. My friends and I have traveled here to find you," Little Bear replied. Emily was so excited that she gave Little Bear a hug. Soon, Little Bear's friends all ran up to Emily so they can give her a hug. "How did you find me?" Emily asked in amazement. "We followed the map that got us here," Duck replied. "Where are your parents?" Owl asked. He noticed that Emily's parents were nowhere to be seen. "Oh, they're gone out to the city for a couple of days, so I'm just sitting here all by myself then. Or I guess you could say work." "Well," Emily replied as she patted Owl's head, "what brings you all here?" "We're here to take you back home to where you were always with Granny," Little Bear stated. "Oh, well, Little Bear, I haven't been here in a long time. Let's just say that Granny is in a better place," Emily replied. "How did Granny die?" Mitzi asked. "Well, she did, sadly, but that's why I haven't come back to the woodlands," Emily replied to Mitzi's question. She invited Little Bear inside his friends inside her house. When Little Bear and his friends walked inside Emily's house, it looked very different compared to when she was living with her granny. "It's so big here," Duck said, looking around. "That's because the model is bigger than your pond," Emily chuckled to reply. Then Cat saw some china stuff in a china cabinet. "Some nice old stuff you have, Emily. Your parents like to use this as decoration," Cat said. "They sure do. Ever since Granny passed, I've been living with my parents for years," Emily said as Little Bear saw Lucy on the couch. "Is Lucy here? Has she been doing okay?" Little Bear asked. "Yes, she has. Lucy says she misses you all," Emily replied. She listened to what her doll had to say. "Lucy says that she's happy that you're all here." "We're glad we came here, even if it was worth the risk," Hen said as she and Duck saw the plates and stuff that were in the china cabinet. Little Bear saw a photo of Emily in her graduation gown from high school. He picked at the picture frame. "Was this you, Emily?" Little Bear asked about the picture. "Yes, that is me, Little Bear. I went to high school," Emily replied. "High school is for teenagers who really want to go out into the world." "Really?" Little Bear asked in wonder. "Oh, yes, and there's a college and university," Emily said. "I'm now 20 years old, and things are going well with me in my school." "What happened to Granny?" Hen asked. "We haven't seen her in like 13 years. "Oh, well," Emily trailed off sadly. "Are you sure you can handle it?" Emily asked. "It's a sad story, so just so you all know." "Well, we can handle it," No Feet replied. "Why is it sad?" Duck asked. "Well, when I said that I'll come back for Christmas," Emily began as her friends all nodded. "Well, that was the year Granny got very sick, so my parents had to take her to the hospital, and she was there and with machines hooked up. The doctors and nurses hoped that she'd be okay, but a few days after Christmas was when Granny passed away." "What was she sick with?" Owl asked. "Just natural causes, Owl. She wasn't sick with cancer or any other disease," Emily replied. "And ever since then, I've been living in the city with my parents since." "So that explains why you haven't returned to Woodland," Little Bear stated. "Now it all makes sense. Well, I'm glad we arrived here and found you. I'm glad you guys came here. I missed you so much," Emily replied, giving her bear friend a hug. "Are you going to come back with us home?" Cat asked. "Well, I don't know about that right now. You see, Little Bear, I'm in college still, and it's my last year. I'm graduating with an associate's degree to become a scientist, Emily replied. All of Little Bear's friends were amazed at this. When are you graduating? Hen asked. Next week, and you're all welcome to my graduation, Emily said to her friends and Little Bear, and they nodded. You'll all have to meet my parents for approval, of course, first. I hope they're just as nice as Granny, Little Bear said hopefully. Yes, they are nice, Little Bear. I've told them about you and your friends, Emily replied, and they would love to meet you all, so we'll get along very well. Meanwhile, back at Woodland, Father Bear was reading a newspaper on his couch. He and Mother Bear noticed that Little Bear hadn't returned home yet, and Mother Bear walked in the house from her garden. Little Bear hasn't come home yet, Mother Bear said. I sure hope he's okay. I'm sure he is, dear. Maybe he's on his way back, Father Bear replied. Then he continued to read the newspaper. I've looked everywhere earlier today, but I can't find him or his friends anywhere, Mother Bear said as she sat down in her rocking chair. I'll go and look for him and his friends tomorrow. I sure hope they're okay, Father Bear reassured his wife. Meanwhile in the city, evening was falling upon the sky. Little Bear and his friends have met Emily's parents, which surprised that Little Bear and his friends have traveled to the city. The parents were impressed that they would travel by train to the city, as the animals rarely come on the city by train. You could sleep in the basement, Emily said as she showed her friends the basement. It was built neat and tidy, and it was perfect basement, but it was better than nothing. Well, it's a nice basement, Emily. Never saw this in Woodland, Little Bear replied as he lay down on the soft king-size bed. We never had a basement there. I'm glad you're enjoying this place so far, Emily said. Will you come home with us after graduation? Hen asked. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do after graduation yet, Emily replied. I'll let you all know when I have thought of it for a while. Okay, Emily. Can we spend time together tomorrow? Mitzi suggested. Yeah, like show us around the city, Owl added. All right. I have an exam tomorrow which I've studied for, and after my exam tomorrow, I'll take you all in my car and show you the city, Emily replied with a smile. Thanks, Emily, Little Bear said. As soon as Emily headed upstairs, Little Bear and his friends explored the basement. It was a really big basement. Emily's basement is sure big, No Feet said. It's big enough to fit at least 3 cars inside. The basement is nice and clean, despite of it being big, Owl added. Emily's parents must have a lot of stuff in here, Duck said while looking around. She then found a box of old clothes from Emily when she was younger. I found some of Emily's clothes. It was just from her past. I'm surprised that she and her parents kept them. Must be for keepsake reasons, Little Bear replied. He along with Duck examined one of Emily's clothes. Hopefully Emily can come back to Woodland, Owl said. I sure hope she does. We miss her there. Maybe we could convince her, Hen suggested. That's an idea, Cat said, liking Hen's idea. However, it may be hard to do so. Emily will have to see us back at Woodland, where we had fun together years ago, Mitzi said. I might be able to convince her to come back with us. We'll discuss it tomorrow, Little Bear replied, as he headed to bed along with his friends. As Little Bear looked outside, he could see the moon from the basement window. Mother Bear, Father Bear, I hope you could see us from the moon, Little Bear yawned as he fell asleep. Meanwhile, at the Woodlands, Mother Bear was outside on her rocking chair. She was starting to get worried. Since Little Bear and his friends hadn't returned yet, Father Bear was out to see if he could find them, which was already nightfall. When is Little Bear going to be home? Mother Bear said to herself, worried about her child being out for a few days. It seemed longer than what she expected, but she did pray and hope that Little Bear and his friends would return home safely. Father Bear arrived back home. He had no luck on finding Little Bear or his friends, so he entered the house as Mother Bear headed inside from the backyard. She walked in the living room to meet with Father Bear. Had no luck, I guess, Mother Bear said to Father Bear. No, I'm afraid not, Father Bear replied as he sighed. Well, we'll go out and look for Little Bear and his friends tomorrow. Hopefully they haven't gone far. Do you think he and his friends could have gone to the city? Mother Bear asked. I know that he's not supposed to go there without us knowing. Well, that may be possible, unless he's looking for Emily, Father Bear replied. Then he realized something. Speaking of Emily, he and his friends might have gone to the city to find her. Perhaps we should go there, but why not we look for him and his friends here first? I hope Little Bear and his friends are okay, especially being in the city by themselves, Mother Bear said, agreeing with Father Bear's plan. If we don't find them here in Woodland, then we'll go to the city to find them. Sounds like a plan. I sure hope they're okay, Father Bear replied. Then the two headed off for bed. Meanwhile, in the city the next morning, Little Bear woke up to see Emily sitting on his bed. Good morning, sleepyhead, Emily said to Little Bear. Good morning, Emily. How did you sleep? Little Bear asked as he yawned and sat up. I slept very well. I have an exam at college today, Emily replied. So when I get back, I'll show you and your friends around the city. Sounds great, Emily. What's for breakfast? Little Bear asked. Father Bear's famous flapjacks, of course. Come up with me upstairs. You and your friends are there, Emily said as Little Bear followed his friend upstairs. He met with his friends along with Emily's parents. They were all chowing down on their breakfast. Then Emily served him some flapjacks. This is great, Emily. You both did great. Little Bear thanked Emily as he had a bite of flapjacks. Glad you liked them, Little Bear. Mom and Dad, this is Little Bear. Emily introduced Little Bear to his parents. You've met his friends when they came up here. And this is Little Bear, my very special friend. It's very nice to meet you, Little Bear. Emily told us a lot about you and your friends and their adventures, Emily's mother said. Yep, we saw the adventures you guys went, Emily's father nodded. Emily told us about why you traveled here, and you all came from Woodland. That's where we live. Little Bear wanted all of us to come up here to see Emily, Kat said. Emily and her granny used to live in a log cabin back in Woodland, and we haven't seen her in like 13 years. Time sure flies. Emily did told you guys on why she hasn't returned to Woodland years ago, Emily's mother asked. Yeah, it's so sad that her granny died, Hen answered. We are hoping that Emily could live with us when she's done school. That's why we came here, Duck said, to bring Emily home. Well, since I'm going to be a scientist, I could do my study on animal biology stuff, Emily suggested to her parents. I could do my research and study there, once I graduate from college, of course. Well, honey, if that's what Emily wants to do, I'd say she should go for it, Emily's father said to his wife. It may be a good idea. I can get my career started after graduation. Some people could take their work anywhere they want, Emily said. It's how they learn stuff and different things. So what if you do go back to Woodland with your friends? Will you let us visit you, and will you do the same? Emily's mother asked. I don't see why I can't. Of course you can visit me, and I'll visit you too. Just as Emily said that, Little Bear and his friends felt joy within them. Emily was going to return to Woodland so she could start her biology career there. Thanks so much for the breakfast, Hen said before trailing off, not knowing who Emily's parents' names were. Just call me Franny, and my husband's name is Benjamin, or Benny for short, Franny replied. Thanks for the breakfast, Franny, Hen said. Yes, Franny, and Benjamin, these flapjacks are great, Owl said, just as good as Father Bear's. Emily told us a lot about your parents, Little Bear. Do they know that you're here? Franny asked. Well, we didn't tell them that we were coming here, because we wanted to see Emily ourselves, Little Bear replied. Well, seeing that you're all grown up and so are your friends, you could stay in the city as long as you'd like. The city has a lot of things here, Franny said. Emily did talk to us all about you guys coming to her graduation. So Ben and I have decided that you can all come to her graduation. Yay! Everyone cheered. Little Bear and his friends couldn't be even more happier than they already were. Meeting Emily for the first time in years, getting invited to her college graduation, was the best thing that's ever happened to Little Bear and his friends. This is gonna be awesome. Emily's all grown up, No Feet said. Yep, I bet I gotta get going to pass the exam, Emily said as she grabbed her school bag and headed for the front door. How many exams do you have? Kat asked. I had 2 yesterday, and today is my final exam, Emily replied. When I get back, we could spend time together. Emily hugged her friends goodbye as she did the same for her parents. Then she left the house. Well, me and my wife must get to work, Benjamin said as he grabbed his stuff and got ready for work. Franny did the same as Little Bear wondered what to do. But as soon as Franny left the house, Benjamin handed Little Bear a key to the house in a chain. Here, Little Bear, in case if you and your friends want to explore the city, you may need these keys in case if we or Emily is still not home. Thanks, Ben, Little Bear said as Emily's father headed out the door. As soon as Little Bear and his friends were alone, they all looked at each other. What should we do? Duck asked. We could take a look in the city, Mitzi suggested. Didn't Emily say she was going to show us around the city? Owl asked. Well, yeah, but we could see some of it, Mitzi said. How about we take a look at this house? Little Bear suggested. I wonder if Emily still has, well, Lucy kept in her bedroom. That was when I was going to ask her, but that left my mind, Kat said. Then Little Bear and his friends headed upstairs. Once they got upstairs, they looked around to see Emily's room at the left of the second floor. Little Bear and his friends then walked inside Emily's room, and it was a grown-up woman's bedroom, as it would be like. As they looked around the room, Little Bear saw something on the window pane of Emily's bedroom, and it was a doll. And as Little Bear and his friends inspected the doll, they all realized and recognized the doll. The doll was Lucy.